Okay, here's what we got. We got a 2013 Polaris Pro RMK. Obviously it's missing some stuff here. Pulled it apart to put some new pistons in and found a whole load of two-stroke oil in the crankcase. And so after reading a little bit online, I decided to call the dealership, and they told me what the problem was. It's oil injection check valves. Anyway, so the motor has to be pulled. It's way too tight between here and that motor to get to those check valves and get them out. Anyway, we'll swing on over here and have a look at the motor sitting here on the bench. You can see each one of these ports got a little piece of paper stuffed in it there. There's 5 of them. 1 there, 2, 3. Actually, those are injector ports, sorry. That's my bad. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3. There's 1 on top here, 4. And then there's 1 inside in between there. So the 3 bearings, and then 2 on the bottom here. The 2 on the bottom were the ones that seemed like they actually worked when I tested them. I'll show you just kind of how I test them here. Yeah, you can see all the oil lines going to each one. Okay, here's our little test bench. I got a little pressure gauge, a pressure supply. It does not have to be very much, and it's teed into this hose fitting, and I just got this thing jammed in a hose and tightened up, and then shoved it in here. So how these things work is it's just probably a check ball. We're going to cut one of these apart here in a minute and have a look at what's inside, but there's a check ball and a little spring. You got to lift that ball, so you got to have enough pressure inside this hose into that fitting there to lift that ball. And the old ones, I'll do this brand new one to see, but the old ones, the good ones, would hold about 2.5 psi. So we're going to give this a little bump. We're pressuring up. Oh, look at that. 2.5. And I'm going to watch this, and when I start to see the pressure fall down and the oil squirt out, I'll say that's probably good. Oh, right there. It started to sputter just a little bit. I heard a little bit come out of that. So actually, this one's holding about 4 psi. So that tank pressure has to get above 4 psi on the machine before it'll start squirting out that, you know. So obviously, if you have a good ventilated cap, 4 psi is going to be fairly hard to achieve. So let's try old one. Excuse me for a second. Alright, this one is, I think, the better of the old ones. Okay, so let's give it a pump or two, and you can hear it like the first pump. Okay, then it's letting the air out right now, so let's have us a look. Alright, well, 2.5 psi, that's not half bad. Again, that means that tank has to have about 2.5 psi on it before it starts letting oil drip into your crankcase. So let's go ahead, and that's one of the better ones. Now let's do one of the worst ones. Alright, got the same setup. Okay, I'm right here holding. I'll just hold it right on the gauge because I know what this is going to do. Do you see that? Those numbers go up and they come back down. It's because it's leaking right straight through it. Right? So I'm pumping, and what it's doing is it's just pumping that air straight through that thing. So it won't hold it won't hold 1/10 of a psi. So obviously just gravity is going to make that oil run straight into the crankcase, which is the problem we're having. So like I said, out of the 5 that are in this machine, there was 3 of them that were wasted and would allow oil into the crankcase. There was two that worked halfway decent, but obviously not as good as what a new one. A new one was about 4 psi, and the old ones were about 2 psi. But the old ones that were bad, and I think that's what the come away from this is the ones that were bad are bad. I mean, they don't work as check valves. They allow oil straight through. So if you don't want that thing filling up with oil, you're gonna have to get you some of these. Like I said, I'm gonna cut one of these apart and let's have us a look. Okay, quick little how-to on how to check these. Here's a new one. That's what it looks like right there. That's the whole thing. It's a check valve, so it allows oil in this direction and no crankcase pressure out that way. So where you hook the oil line to, you can hit it with a little shot of air. You're not gonna hear it. Kind of got a funny sound. And you go the other way. The only air I can get through it is leaks. You can hear it when I pull it off, obviously. So this is one of the ones that actually worked. We're going to do the same thing, just to kind of show you another one that worked. And so I pressure it up. When I pull it out, it definitely is holding some air. Now this one, well, there's 5 in there, 3 of them were bad. This is obviously blows that way just fine, and the opposite direction it should hold air. You hear that? It blows air right through it, both directions. So that's just one quick easy way to do it. Once you have them out, once you got it out, I mean, why not? At that point, I'll just pick this up, show you what I got here. I mean, Polaris, that's the part number. That's the valve you got to get, little injector check valve. I think they're 27 bucks, probably retail, you know. So takes 5 of them. You got to pull them out of the motor. That's probably the hardest part. I'll kind of just test fit this to show you where these things set in. I think set right in there. Anyway, I had to get on it with a pair of vice grips and twist it a little bit to break it free and then wiggle it out. And please note that each and every one of those, you see, I worked them over pretty good getting them out. So I don't know, you know, you try to save some money, but by the time you get them out, they're pretty ugly. And the hardest part is pulling the motor. So, I mean, I bought all 5, but do whatever. They're not real easy to test, but I'll show you how I tested them too, just so you can have an idea of what can be done. Okay, as promised, I got a couple of these apart. They didn't cut apart real awesome, but hey, let's look. Okay, so this one I split right down the center, and you can see it's obviously got a channel here. And then there was a spring in here, of course, me cutting it in half. Pretty well run that. And then there's a little BB. And this doodad was in there too. And I think this right hand side here is what went into the motor. And this left is either where the check ball sat, so it's the seat. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the seat where that check ball sets on. But hey, I got another one apart, and this one I just clipped the end off, right? So this ugly part on the right there goes into the engine, and this part on the left here is what's inside this check. So basically how this was put together is there's a little spring here, and then this check ball. Now you might notice that ball is quite a bit shinier than that one. Well, I'm pretty sure that one, my grinder got into it. But so that's exactly what's inside that little thing. Obviously, by the time you get it apart, there's no saving it. This is just so we can understand what old Polaris was trying to accomplish here. Anyway, hopefully that little business might give you an idea of what's going on in there, why your crankcase on that Polaris is filling with two-stroke oil and making her pretty hard to start in fall. So anyway, we'll put this thing together and cram it in the sled over there and see what we can come up with. Oh yeah, one other thing here, I wanted to show you what things I did to try and fix these, you know, so I didn't have to spend a bunch of money replacing them. But mechanics said that you could clean these, which it's a check valve, and obviously, you know, there's probably something in that check. So I tried some denatured alcohol. I tried some brake clean. Oh yeah, let's have us look there. That's carb clean. And with 0 results. So I mean, you can definitely try it. It's a pretty simple device. It's kind of hard to believe that you can't clean it and make it work. I'm not sure if there's a part on the inside of this thing that's corroding out, even though it's in oil, and causing them the failure, or what the story is. But I did try the denatured alcohol, and I soaked them for days and days, and the carb clean and that, and nothing worked. So the only thing I found to fix these things is replace them. I did talk to a couple of mechanics. They said if you do have some that maybe stuck one time, to, you know, ride that machine, get the oil flowing through those check valves, and maybe get whatever's in them out. That's not bad advice, but if it continues to do it, pulling the motor and doing those might be your only fix. So.